every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fitness you want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car. Whoa!
DHS says that footage backs up their story, that she used her car as a weapon to hurt or kill the agent. The vice president agrees, reposting the video saying the reality is that his life was endangered and he fired in self-defense. But critics of the administration argue the opposite. They say that it is damning to hear her say, "I'm not mad at you," and hearing the officer, or a officer in the video, call her an effing bitch after that shooting. Now, Democratic Senator Ruben Gallego responded to Vance, questioning why the officer was filming the incident in one hand while wielding a gun in the other. He wrote, quote, "No law enforcement ever trains to get in front of a vehicle. And why did he continue to shoot even after she drove away? A U.S. citizen died, and the vice president is trying to justify it." Joining us in our fifth seat is Darren Porcher, a former NYPD lieutenant. Darren, I wonder what you think of those questions that Ruben Gallego poses about both what the officer was doing. He was holding the gun in one hand, apparently recording in the other, then fires a shot while also still recording, and then also just where he was positioned. Does that matter?
It does. This is very significant. I was a lieutenant in NYPD's Internal Affairs Bureau, so on many occasions I've been investigating shootings of this magnitude. And one of the things that we always trained officers to do is step away from the vehicle. And this, when we look at from a procedural perspective and best practices in policing, this is spot on. You don't want to put yourself in harm's way. You want to step away from the vehicle and simply jot down the license plate number and get the person at another time. The offense here is somewhat trivial. I don't see a felony that was committed. I don't see an acrimonious act whereas it created the propensity for an assault against another common citizen. In addition to that, after the vehicle pulled away, after that first shot, you see two more shots on the driver's side. So the threat had already passed. However, the officer continued to fire additional rounds. Therefore, I think that this is really going to be questionable from the perspective of the 1989 court decision as it relates to Graham versus Connor, which introduces when and how a police officer can use force. Procedurally, this is not sound, but from a law perspective, it can be somewhat questionable.
Scott?
I mean, contrary to what I heard out here the other day, this person was not a random passerby who just happened to be driving through her neighborhood. This person is part of a group of people who form convoys to interfere with federal law enforcement operations. They drive convoys of cars into active law enforcement situations. They interfere with ongoing law enforcement activity. This is a felony to do that, A. B, this person had been following ICE around all day, apparently, according to witnesses, now according to further reporting. C, they didn't follow lawful commands to stop, get out of the car. D, they accelerated a car into the officer. It clearly hit the officer. I don't understand how you could watch this video and all the other videos that have come out and not come to the conclusion that this is an unfortunate, tragic situation that was caused by someone, the person driving the vehicle, using extraordinarily poor judgment from top to bottom. Doesn't make me happy. I don't like it. I hate this. I don't like it when U.S. citizens or anyone dies in any kind of a engagement with law enforcement like this. But this person exercised extremely poor judgment and put themselves in harm's way, probably committing a felony in the process, and this is the result.
Can I just ask how you not see this in the gray area? That was great. That was a great
Gray area?
Yeah. The police officer walks around the front of the car. So the way it was initially told, and by the way, I'm not left or right, so don't think I'm a liberal and so I'm automatically going to defend. But the way it was initially described by Kristi Noem was that this car was going after him almost like as if the car was going down the street. He winds his way around after 6 months earlier having been dragged by a car. So he did put himself in harm's way. That doesn't mean she was right to do it. But the problem that I have with this conversation generally, not you personally, is one side wants to see it one way and one side wants to see it the other way, and there ain't no middle ground, and there is. She should have listened to the command. He should not have been where he was. He overreacted. I know it's easy to say, and I think that we have to get in the middle somewhere on this and recognize that two people were wrong.
I disagree with that completely. I don't see this as a gray area at all, and I certainly don't see her playing a role in her own death, Scott. I mean, you can see even law enforcement officials have played the video frame by frame. Earlier, Anderson Cooper had a guest who was playing the video frame by frame, and you see in every frame she's turning her vehicle away from the ICE officer. They are approaching her. She was not going at him. She was trying to get away because they were approaching her vehicle. You also hear him in this video refer to her as an effing bitch. None of this seems like someone who should be in a position of filming her on his phone. He is the officer. He is the one with the weapon. He has all the power in this situation. Regardless if she's a protester or not, you were saying those things almost as if it justifies her being shot by him. That's just not true. Since Trump's second term, there have been 16 shootings involving ICE agents. 4 of those have resulted in deaths, including Good. Other times, there have been 14 incidents where ICE agents have pulled a weapon. Another 14 episodes where ICE agents have used a weapon that wasn't lethal, like pepper balls and rubber balls, rather pepper spray. This is not okay. This is not normal behavior. And I think if we pretend that there's a middle ground here, we don't have to come to the middle. Actually, we could just use our eyes and ears and look at what we saw. There was nothing confusing about that video.
She's not a protester, right? She was there to interfere. She had her car sideways.
So she deserves to be murdered? That can't seriously be your point.
You use the term protester. We keep using that. She's not a protester, okay? She's there to interfere with law enforcement. She has her car sideways in the road. She's clearly been doing this, as has been reported. She's part of an active group to do this.
Regardless of what you might call her, are you justifying her being shot by an ICE agent?
it's
Are you
tragic.
justifying her pulling into the officer?
It's-
She hit him with
I'm
trying-
I'm disputing the basis of that. That's
this
not
is-
factual.
but this is
the
very
video
cars
shows
are deadly
it's
weapon.
not factual.
All right.
She was
Do
not
you
going
think-
at him. The video shows that.
Go ahead, Darren.
Do you think officers train for this scenario? Yes or no?
I'm sure they do.
All right. Back in the 70s.
And not only that,
Scott,
this
Scott,
personal officer
Scott.
was dragged.
But you answered my
last
question.
summer.
You answered my
Then
question.
he should-
35
Back in,
students.
but
Then
listen,
he
this
should not
is
be.
an
He
important
should be in
point.
the position
Back in the
of-
1970s, there was a study done on how police officers should engage individuals in cars. Whenever you and what came out was whenever you shoot a person that's driving a motor vehicle and you're successful, the centrifugal force of that vehicle will continue to move forward. Therefore, you do not defeat the threat. So what do you do in a situation like that? You move away from the car. And we found on a national level that police have gained an overwhelming level of success in terms of trying to get away from the vehicle as opposed to putting themselves in harm's way.
Can I ask you another question, Darren? The exchange, we're very focused, rightfully so, on what happened with the officer with the gun. But I'm also curious about the interaction with the other officer who approaches her window. And we see in the video, he says, "Get out of the effing car," and grabs the door handle, presumptively to try to pull her out. I have questions about that and about that tactic. And I keep hearing people talking about de-escalation being something that seems absent, not just in this situation, but in a lot of interactions that we have observed with ICE and citizens, whether they're protesters or others.
The de-escalation comes with the verbal commands, and the officer may not have been successful, but at the same token, you had the ability to step away and merely jot down that license plate number and get that person another point. But what's more so significant is that officer that discharged his weapon put his fellow officer in harm's way. He could have gotten shot. Because when you look at the trajectory of where these bullets came, they were relatively close to the officer that was standing next to that passenger side door. Therefore, we refer to something as firearms control. We want to know where you're shooting before you discharge your weapon. Remember, after the car passed, you still had an officer that was discharging rounds at the side of the automobile. The threat had already fizzled out. The vehicle is moving forward. And as I mentioned in the earlier part, the centrifugal force of that vehicle is going to continue moving forward even if the operator is shot. And we saw the same thing happen in this video. After the lady was shot, the vehicle continued to move forward and crash into another auto.
Also, don't you think, real quick, that I keep going back to the behavior of the officer that went up and said, "Get out of the effing car." it was very clear that he felt pretty comfortable in terms of his safety with this car and this woman. He walks up, he reaches in, he can see. So if I'm his fellow officer coming this way, I see that he's not screaming, gun, gun. He's not freaking out. You know that this is sort of a woman in her car. She's not really a threat. It just felt so ratcheted up for what was happening around him, that gentleman who was taking the photos with his camera. And I felt like he wasn't keying off of what was going on.
There were also other-
We can't admit he was hit by the car, correct?
Well, we don't know. We don't know if the
saw it.
camera. No, we don't know if the camera hit the car.
He was hit by the car.
We don't know if the camera was hit by the car in his hand.
We see,
We
can
don't know
see
that.
his
He was
leg.
hit by the
He was-
car.
Okay,
He was hit by the car.
Okay, and he was hit by the car jumping out of the way. In other words, if he had not jumped out of the way, he would have been killed.
I disagree.
I mean, that's-
I disagree. I'm telling you this as a person that's trained for this. I'm telling you this as a former police academy instructor that trained recruits on how to evade a vehicle that's moving forward. We've done studies on this time and time again, and it's proved to be an overwhelming success if the officer steps away. And you mentioned he was hit by the vehicle. It is a problem that he was hit by the vehicle, but was he injured? Do you think there was a genuine
She was
injury?
turning away.
But he
She was
jumped.
not
Should he
driving
wait to
her
get
car
crushed to
at
death
night.
and then fight back?
But even the video showed he was turning away from her. So he was raised by the car. She was not driving her car at him. I mean, we can just look at
Let me just
our
play.
eyes of the video and see.
I just want to play a little bit of how Trump reacted to questions about this earlier today at the White House.
There was a woman screaming, shame, 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 shame. She was a agitator, probably a paid agitator, but in my opinion, she was an agitator, a very high level agitator, so professional. She wouldn't stop screaming. I said, this isn't a normal situation. This is a professional troublemaker. You have agitators, and we will always be protecting ICE, and we're always going to be protecting our Border Patrol and our law enforcement.
I just wonder, is it not possible for regular Americans to decide that they disagree with ICE's tactics? They want to yell shame at ICE. That's not a crime. Reporting is not a crime. Blowing whistles is not a crime. Why does that make you A, a professional agitator, or B, as they said earlier in this week, a domestic terrorist?
Well, protesting is perfectly fine in this country. That's not what was happening in this case. And as we saw from the reporting in the last 24 hours, there's a group of people who are being trained to use vehicles in convoys to disrupt
To do
ICE
what
operations.
exactly, Scott?
Disrupt
To do
and
what
impede
exactly?
ICE
Well, hold on.
operations.
I mean, I think this is important. What are
Disrupt and
you? What are
impede.
you
Do you have
suggesting that she
quantitative
was
statistics to
doing?
support this conclusion?
Yeah.
I read the article in the New York Post that
Okay.
went chapter and verse
So-
through all the
so-
training.
so-
Everything in the post is absolutely right.
The New York
Yes,
Post.
I know it's not
Scott,
convenient
here's the
to your
reality.
narrative, but there's
There's
training,
there's a
training
cause-
to impede and obstruct. I feel
So
like I'm
Scott,
taking
But that
Scott,
doesn't
but
justify
hold-
getting
but Scott,
shot.
I mean,
And there's a
listen,
cause and
I
effect
can't
here.
speak to the crazy pills, but in the video,
I mean, you're
in
denying
the video,
things that have been openly
but-
reported.
Scott, listen, I'm not going to treat the New York Post like the Bible, okay? In the video,
I didn't ask
you
you to. I just
see
asked you to be honest about what
vehicle-
we. No one's
if
disputing
you
this.
see the vehicle perpendicular in the road, you also see, seconds before this shooting happens, another vehicle drive just past her.
She's
The
waving them
vehicle
through.
is coming just like the other one was, encountered her vehicle, drove right around it. So maybe there was an attempt to impede, but that attempt to impede was not enough to stop another car from just driving right past her, just seconds before this all transpired. So I really wonder, like, as you're trying to make this sound like some grand conspiracy, first of all, don't you have to prove that she actually was a member of whatever group you say she was a member of? And even if she was, doing what she was doing was probably unwise. But
Agree on
again,
that.
but again, not really clear to me that it's a crime that is punishable by arrest or death.
The
Can
crime.
we-
The crime is driving your car directly at and into a
She went
federal
on.
law enforcement
Well,
officer.
listen, I don't
And
want
it's
I don't want
furthermore
us
trying
to jump
impede
around here
law
because
enforcement
I'm
is a
talking
crime.
about your accusation that, or, you know, you're accusing her, like Trump is perhaps, that she's a professional agitator, that she was in some kind of convoy, whatever it is. I'm just asking you, based on what she was actually doing in that moment, how are you so sure that the ICE vehicle couldn't have just driven right around her?
Look, all I can do is look at the video, listen to what the witnesses have said, and look at the facts. These people in these convoys are following ICE around, actively trying to impede law enforcement activity. That's number one, and yes,
Is
that is a
following
crime.
ICE around
And
a
number,
crime?
and
No.
number two, they are also
Is
being
following
trained
ICE around a
to
crime,
actively
Scott?
impede, for the purpose of
Scott,
impeding them,
Is
yes.
following ICE around a crime?
For the purpose of
But
impeding
what,
them,
what
yes.
do you mean
No,
by
it is
impeding?
not.
Getting in their way, interfering
She
with the
wasn't in
discharge
their
of their
way, though,
duties.
Scott. She was literally
Can we talk
watching them
about the
through.
governmental
Can we talk
administration?
about
I get that, but don't you think that we actually have to demonstrate that she did that she was obstructing their ability to actually do their job? Could they have driven around her? It's a very important
They asked her to
question.
stop and get out of the car. She
That was
wouldn't do
after,
it.
no, that was
Literally
after
Her
seconds.
wife
that.
told
Hold
her
on.
to quote, drive,
Literally-
baby, drive,
Okay, listen,
and told her
I'm
to
not
drive into
justifying
the
her
guy.
decision to drive, but I'm saying, when watching the video from all the different angles, he says, get out of the effing car, and literally within seconds, shots are fired.
After
but
she says, I'm not
In
mad
a
at
matter
you.
of seconds,
Wait,
the car
hard
moved and hit
through.
him in the
But
shins.
what would have been the
So I'm
worst?
just-
What was the worst thing that happened if she actually got away? Right? Like
They
it was
had her
very,
license
it was
plate,
very
they
Getting
could've-
clear
away
that
is
this
not
was
the
not a
issue.
terrorist.
The
Can we-
issue
hang
is
on a second.
he
Can we-
thought she
hang
was
on a second.
running over him in a
Let's talk
car.
about cause and effect. You keep saying they're out there, they're agitating, they're doing these
They
things.
are.
Do you think people are doing this because they're mad? You know why they're doing it, Scott? They're afraid. They don't
They
understand.
don't
what's
look too.
happening.
They don't look
Hang
too
on a
afraid to
second.
me.
They don't understand what's happening in their communities right now.
Is that
Now,
a good
most
reason to
people-
drive your
hang
car
on,
to a
no,
federal law
hang on a
enforcement?
second.
She
We'll
did
get to
not
that in a minute.
drive her
Most
car into a
people
law
are
enforcement.
fine
It's ridiculous.
with cleaning up immigration. I'm fine with it. The border policy is working pretty well. For some people, having guys with masks and no cameras and very aggressive tactics and at times not having a search warrant scares people. So what are they doing? They feel like they have to police the police.
Okay.
Now,
If
hang
you-
on,
let-
wait, just
I
one
wanna-
second.
I wanna
No,
answer
wait,
you because it's a
one more
thoughtful
second.
comment.
Please acknowledge that there is cause and effect in life. That a plumber in Minnesota isn't going, I got nothing to do tonight. I'm going to go agitate. They're afraid and they're protecting each other. So if the government,
What is
Trump
she afraid of?
she's afraid of a president that's calling her an agitator when she's not, of Kristi Noem calling her a domestic terrorist when she's not.
Okay.
All of that foments anger and fear, which creates conflict, and
My-
that's why
There
we're
My
is
brother,
fear.
Okay,
I want to answer your question. If you do not like a federal law, if you do not like the way a federal law is being enforced, what we do in this country is call our congressmen, call our legislators and say, let's change the law. Let's change the policies. What we do not do is drive our cars into and over the people who are simply there enforcing the laws that are on the books.
What about
you can
protests?
change law. I have no problem with protest. That's not protest. That is impeding federal law enforcement. Again, it's a perfectly legitimate political
No, it
But
position.
we did
to
not
do
see
this.
her.
she wasn't impeding because they could get around.
No, but that's
I mean,
we've
let me-
only seen
guys.
30 seconds of the video. We don't know what was
So
there
then,
for the
so if you
gotta-
did, you
gotta
only see
hold
30
on.
seconds,
We
then
gotta
how
hold
do
on
you know
here
that she's
and hit
impeding
pause
federal
for
law
just a
enforcement?
moment
That's literally
and
not what the
continue
video
on the other
shows.
side of the break. But thank you very much to Darren Porcher for being here with us. Next for us, Tucker Carlson calls out the right for being hypocritical over their reaction to the shooting versus their reaction to Charlie Kirk's assassination. Plus, it is the harshest threat yet. Donald Trump says the United States will own Greenland, whether they like it or not.